There comes a moment in your life when you feel something shift, quietly, almost imperceptibly, like a soft ripple moving beneath the surface of your awareness. It doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't announce itself. It arrives the way truth often does, unexpected, familiar, and strangely ancient. And in that moment, you sense something that your mind can't quite explain, but your body recognizes instantly. A whisper, a nudge, a memory that feels like the future. Here is the truth hiding in plain sight. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering someone you already are. We were taught to believe life unfolds in a straight line, that the past is behind us, the future is ahead of us, and we move through time like passengers on a narrow track. But this is a comforting illusion, a simplified map designed for a nervous system that cannot handle the full architecture of reality. Because in the deeper structure of the universe, in the quantum world, where matter dissolves into vibration and possibilities, time is not a line, it's a field, a vast, multi-dimensional landscape where every version of you already exists. You are not attracting your future, you are tuning into it. And every shift in your emotional frequency is a shift in the station you're listening to. Before you begin this journey, pause and ask yourself, why do you sometimes feel déjà vu for moments you've never lived? Why do certain dreams feel more like memories than imagination? Why are there scenes, visions, flashes of a future that you can't logically explain, yet you carry them as if you've been there, because you have? Not physically, vibrationally. Imagine your life not as a single timeline, but as a radio dial with infinite stations. You don't create what's on each station, you simply tune in. One station holds the version of you who doubts. Another holds the you who thrives. One station broadcasts fear. Another broadcasts clarity. They all exist right now, simultaneously, humming beneath the noise of your daily life. And the question that determines your path is not, how do I get there? It's, which frequency am I remembering? Let's step into a scene together. Picture yourself standing alone in the quiet of your room. The world outside is still. The lights are low. And suddenly, for reasons you cannot articulate, you feel something pressed gently against your awareness, like a memory rising from deep water. You see a glimpse of yourself on a different timeline, stronger, softer, more certain, more whole. You feel their calm. You feel their confidence. You feel how effortless it is for them to exist. You don't know why this vision feels real. You just know it does, as if you've lived it already. This is not fantasy. This is not wishful thinking. This is resonance. The future you're sensing isn't waiting to be created. It's waiting to be remembered. It's not outside of you. It's entangled with you. And the moment your frequency matches that version through emotion, intention, breath, and presence, the field responds instantly, because the universe is not responding to time, it's responding to you. This is the glitch in the mainstream manifestation matrix. You've been taught to attract what you want, but you were never supposed to attract anything. You were supposed to remember what's already yours. So let me ask you, what if the longing you feel is not desire, but recognition? What if the dreams that won't leave you alone are not hopes, but memories? What if the future you crave is not somewhere out there, but just one frequency away, pulsing softly beneath your current awareness, waiting for you to tune in? As you listen to these words, breathe. Feel the subtle pull inside your chest. That sensation quiet, magnetic. Familiar is not you reaching for your future. It is your future reaching for you. And in this opening chapter, before we walk any further, I want you to hold one truth gently in your mind. Your life is not unfolding. It is revealing. And what it reveals depends entirely on what you remember. This is the beginning. The moment where the old map dissolves and a deeper intelligence takes over the intelligence that has always been guiding you. The intelligence that knows you are not lost, not behind, not broken, just layered. As we step into the next chapter, you'll discover why your future self is not a fantasy, not a goal, not a dream, but an active presence already entangled with you. And why you felt their whispers your entire life without realizing what they were. But for now, take one breath and let this settle. You are not becoming. You are returning. And the future is closer than you think. When Maya was 7 years old, she discovered a kind of magic, not the storybook kind, but something quieter. Something that lived inside her body long before she had words for it. She loved to sing. Not just in passing, not just for fun, but with a fierce, innocent joy that took over her whole being. She remembered every small stage she ever stepped on. The elementary school auditorium with its faded curtains, the holiday performances where her costume was always a size too big, the neighborhood festivals where the microphone squeaked and the speakers crackled with static. None of that mattered. What mattered was the moment the room quieted, the moment the first note left her chest, the moment she felt something inside her settle, a sense of rightness, alignment, as if her entire being exhaled. And then, the applause, not the volume, but the feeling, a warm wave rising toward her, wrapping around her like a gentle embrace. Even at 7, she felt something she didn't understand, yet I belong here. But as she grew older, the world grew louder. People encouraged her to be practical, her schedule filled with the things adults said were important. Singing became something for holidays, not hopes. Purpose was replaced by responsibility, innocence replaced by expectation. And the memory of who she really was slipped quietly into the background. Still, every time she passed a theater, she felt a familiar tug in her chest, a soft ache, like a door she once opened, but no longer remembered how to find. Years later, life cracked open. A relationship ended. Her job drained her in ways she couldn't explain. She woke up tired, went to sleep anxious, and felt her world shrinking around her. One evening, after a long day, she sat alone in her car under the flickering glow of a parking lot light. Her breath trembled, her vision blurred. A panic attack rose like a wave she couldn't stop. And yet, beneath that fear, something else stirred. It wasn't a voice exactly, not in the way we hear ordinary words. It was more like a vibration, a knowing, something ancient inside her, whispering up through the layers of stress and survival. It's time to remember who you are. She didn't understand it, but she recognized it. Not as guidance, not as hope, but as memory. That night, she stood in front of her bathroom mirror, tears slipping down her cheeks, but she wasn't crying from sadness. She was crying because something returned. A frequency, a feeling, the same feeling she had at 7 years old, standing on those small stages, hearing the applause, feeling utterly and undeniably aligned. A week later, a friend invited her completely out of the blue to an open mic night. She said yes without knowing why. And 2 months after that, she found herself standing on a local stage, lights warming her skin, a quiet crowd leaning in. The moment her feet touched the floor, something clicked, not because she attracted the opportunity, but because she remembered it. The field responded to her recognition. Here is the part most people never realize. You don't manifest what you want. You collapse the reality that matches what your soul already knows. Maya didn't create that moment. She tuned back into it. Her childhood memories weren't fantasies, they were flashes of a future self already singing on bigger stages, already living with purpose, already aligned with a timeline she had forgotten. Every longing she felt as an adult wasn't desire. It was recognition, a memory surfacing, a frequency returning. This is what remembering feels like. Not a push, but a pull. Not effort, but resonance. So let me ask you, what version of you have you been ignoring? What dream felt too real to be just imagination? What childhood moment lit up your whole body, and why did it feel like coming home? Because Maya's story isn't rare. It's a mirror. And as we move into the next chapter, we'll uncover why these flashes of memory, these pulls of intuition, these déjà vu moments are not coincidences, but signals from a version of you already alive in the quantum field. For now, hold this truth gently. The life you long for isn't ahead of you. It's inside you. And every time you listen, you step one frequency closer to the future that has been calling you all along. Before we go any deeper, let me ask you something, and I want you to answer not with your logic, but with your body. Have you ever had a moment that felt strangely familiar, even though you were experiencing it for the very first time? Have you ever felt pulled toward a dream or a path without knowing why it mattered so much? Have you ever sensed a version of yourself stronger, clearer, more aligned, as if they were standing just a few steps ahead of you, waiting for you to catch up? And have you ever wondered why those moments feel less like imagination and more like remembering? If any part of you whispered yes, then what you're experiencing isn't fantasy. It's physics. It's the deeper architecture of reality rising to the surface. Because what you call intuition, déjà vu, inner knowing, they are not accidents. They are signatures, echoes, signals from a version of you that already exists. And to understand why, we have to step into the place where science and spirit finally stop contradicting each other and start completing each other. This is where the bridge begins. There is a moment, right after a story like Maya's, when the mind begins to whisper, but how? How can a future moment feel like a memory? How can something that hasn't happened yet feel so familiar, so real, so inevitable? To answer that, we have to step into the place where science and spirit stop arguing and start agreeing. Because what Maya experienced isn't mystical exaggeration. It's quantum mechanics. It's neuroscience. It's the architecture of consciousness itself. Let's begin with one of the most disruptive truths science has ever uncovered. In the quantum world, reality does not exist until it is observed. This is the core of the double-slit experiment, the foundation of the observer effect. When particles were left unobserved, they behaved like waves spread out, probabilistic, existing in many states at once. But the moment a conscious observer measured them, the wave collapsed into a single point, a single outcome, a single reality. This tells us something most people are never taught. The act of observing doesn't just record reality, it selects it. So if a particle exists in infinite versions until observed, what makes you think your future is any different? Every version of you confident, fearful, successful, lost, aligned, disconnected, exists in the quantum field as possibilities. You collapse one by the way you perceive yourself, by the identity you embody, by the emotional signal you broadcast. And this is where the bridge begins. Because the observer isn't your eyes, it's your consciousness, your inner world, your beliefs, your emotions, your nervous system. The quantum field is not responding to time, it responds to coherence. Now let's go deeper. Superposition infinite U. In quantum superposition, a particle can exist in multiple states at the same time. Translate this into human experience, and you get something stunning. Every version of your future self already exists. The one who thrives, the one who hesitates, the one who leads, the one who hides. They're all real in the field. But only one becomes real in your life. Not because fate chooses it, but because you do through your emotional frequency. Entanglement, you and your future are connected. Quantum entanglement reveals that once two particles become connected, they remain linked across time and space. Change one, and the other responds instantly, even if they're separated by galaxies. So ask yourself, if particles can remain connected, what about versions of you? Your present self and your future self are not separated by years. They're separated by frequency. When you feel déjà vu, when you sense a pull towards something you can't explain, when you feel an inner nudge that defies logic, you're not imagining things. You're receiving signals from a version of you who already walked that path. This is why Maya felt a magnetic familiarity when she returned to the stage. Her future self wasn't a fantasy. It was an entangled identity, sending resonance backward in time. Memory is not what you think. Most people believe memory is something stored in the brain, a vault of past experiences. But emerging research in quantum cognition and theories of morphic resonance suggest otherwise. Memory may not be stored in the brain. Memory may be accessed from the field. And that includes the memory of your future. Your brain doesn't differentiate between a vivid imagination and a lived experience. Neuroscience shows that when you visualize something with emotional intensity, your neural circuits fire as if it's happening right now. Your nervous system accepts the imagined as real, encoding it like a memory. This is the biological bridge to the quantum field. When you emotionally embody the version of you you wish to become, your system begins tuning into that timeline. You're not pretending. You're aligning. You're accessing a memory from a future that already exists in the field. Emotion. The access code. Emotion is not decoration. Emotion is instruction. Emotion is how you tune to a timeline. Fear tunes you to one version of the future. Confidence tunes you to another. Gratitude opens one timeline. Self-doubt opens another. This is why two people standing in the same room, with the same opportunities, collapse entirely different lives. They're not receiving different chances. They're broadcasting different signatures. And the field is matching their signal with absolute precision. This is where the line between science and spirituality dissolves. Your thoughts generate electricity. Your feelings generate magnetism. Together, they create an electromagnetic signature, a broadcast into the field. The field hears you in frequency, not words. So when you change your frequency, you change the version of your future you have access to. Maya didn't just get lucky. She tuned back into her signal. And the moment she remembered her frequency, her future remembered her. As we step into the next chapter, we'll move from theory to practice. You'll learn how to shift your emotional signature, how to tune into your future self through embodied presence, and how to collapse the timeline you're meant to live, not through force, but through familiarity. But for now, hold this truth. You are not imagining your future. You are remembering it, and the field responds to what you remember. Now that you understand the science, the quantum mechanics, the entanglement, the emotional frequency that binds you to your future self, the question becomes, how do you actually live this? How do you stop treating your future like a distant destination and start embodying it as a familiar memory? The answer is simpler, softer, and far more intimate than most people expect. Because shifting timelines does not begin with dramatic action. It begins with subtle alignment. It begins in your breath, in your body, in your emotional tone. It begins when you stop trying to reach for your future and start tuning into the version of you who already lives there. Here's the truth most people overlook. The body is the gateway. The nervous system is the bridge. Your emotions are the access code. That means you cannot think your way into your future. You must feel your way into it. You must become emotionally familiar with the reality you wish to live, long before your physical world catches up. And this is not pretend. This is coherence. This is entrainment. This is how the field identifies which version of you to collapse into form. So let's start with a practice, a simple one, a powerful one that begins to rewire your system from the inside out. I call it the timeline encoding ritual, a 90-second doorway into the emotional memory of your future self. 90 seconds is enough for the amygdala to quiet and the prefrontal cortex to take the lead. Close your eyes, right now if you can, and take 3 slow breaths. Not shallow, not rushed, 3 intentional breaths that widen your chest and soften your belly. Then recall a single scene from the future you desire. Not a fantasy, but a moment your body responds to. Maybe it's you speaking with confidence. Maybe it's you waking up in peace. Maybe it's you feeling safe in your own skin for the first time in years. Don't try to see every detail. Let the feeling lead. Let the emotion rise before the image forms. Now amplify that emotion. If your future feels calm, let calmness spread. If your future feels expansive, let that expansion fill your chest. If your future feels joyful, let joy move through you like warmth. Your body doesn't know the difference between a vivid imagination and a lived memory. So the moment you feel the emotion as real, your nervous system begins to encode it as truth. Hold that emotion for 90 seconds. 90 seconds is enough to imprint a new signal into the field. Enough for your heart and brain waves to harmonize. Enough for a new timeline to become accessible. When you open your eyes, the key is simple act from that frequency. Not perfectly, not dramatically, just consistently. Because the brain wires according to repetition, not intensity. And every time you choose a behavior that matches the future instead of the past, you anchor that frequency deeper into your identity. This is the heart of embodiment. It isn't about acting like someone you're not. It's about remembering who you already are. It's about shifting your default emotional signature so your future self becomes your new normal instead of your rare exception. And it happens not through force, but through familiarity. Familiarity is what the nervous system trusts. The more familiar a feeling becomes, the safer it feels. And the safer it feels, the easier it is to sustain. That's why most people stay stuck. Their nervous system is more familiar with contraction than expansion, more familiar with fear than coherence, more familiar with survival than possibility. They're not resisting their future. Their body is simply protecting what it believes is normal. But you can teach the body a new normal. You do it by returning to the frequency again and again, even when you wobble, even when you slip, even when doubt tries to pull you back. The goal is not perfection. The goal is return. Return is what rewires the system. Return is what stabilizes the timeline. Return is how you shift from who you were into who you remember being. So how do you live this in everyday moments? You pause before reacting and ask, what would the version of me who already lived this do right now? You let your future self choose your tone of voice, your posture, your boundaries, your courage. You let their clarity guide your next step. And with each choice, the gap between you and your future self narrows until there is no gap at all. And here's the quiet miracle: the more often you visit the emotional frequency of your future, the more your present reality begins to respond. Synchronicities increase, opportunities align. You feel guided instead of lost. You recognize signs instead of begging for them. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did. The ritual becomes a doorway. The doorway becomes a path. And the path becomes a timeline you can feel beneath your feet. In the next chapter, we'll explore how that timeline stabilizes, how the field begins reorganizing itself around your new identity, how synchronicities turn into patterns, and how the future you've been remembering starts moving toward you with unmistakable precision. But for now, return to this truth: you don't create your future by force. You remember it through embodiment, and your body is ready to remember more than your mind has ever allowed. There comes a moment in every transformation where understanding is no longer enough. You've felt the pull. You've remembered the frequency. You've glimpsed the version of yourself who already lives the life you're reaching toward. But the final step is not about striving harder or manifesting faster. It's about stabilizing the memory, not in your mind, but in your being. Because once you begin embodying your future self, something subtle but extraordinary happens. The field starts responding differently. Reality stops feeling random. The signs that used to appear only once in a while become frequent, intentional, precise. Opportunities that felt out of reach begin to orbit closer. People who match your new frequency enter your life effortlessly, and you begin to sense, in a way that's deeper than intuition, that the future you've been tuning into has been tuning into you this entire time. This is the point where the shift becomes real, not as an idea, but as a lived experience, because the universe does not rearrange itself when you wish. It rearranges itself when you remember. When you hold the frequency long enough for the field to trust that this is who you are now. When your nervous system stops bracing for the past and starts relaxing into the timeline that already carries your name. But here's the truth most people avoid. You cannot stabilize a new reality while clinging to an old identity. You cannot remember your future while staying loyal to the version of you that forgot. And you cannot collapse timelines if you're still waiting for permission to become. This is the final paradox of quantum creation. The old self does not hold on to you. You hold on to it. And the moment you realize that, without judgment, without shame, without rushing to fix anything, a doorway opens. Not the doorway to a new future, but the doorway back to the truth you've carried all along, that nothing is missing, nothing is broken, nothing is out of reach. You are not trying to catch up to your destiny. You are remembering your way back to it. Let's bring this into your everyday life. Each morning, before you speak to anyone, before the world asks anything of you, pause. Place your hand on your chest and feel your breath. And ask one simple question: which version of me am I choosing today? Not the version shaped by circumstance, not the one trained by old wounds, but the one encoded into the field, the one who is already whole, already aligned, already living the life your heart keeps whispering about. Then embody them, in small ways, in quiet ways, in ways no one else will notice but you. Walk a little taller, breathe a little deeper. Speak with the tone your future self would use. Make choices from clarity instead of fear. Let your actions become a steady drumbeat that tells the field, this is who I am now. This is my frequency. This is my timeline. And when the old identity tries to return, as it will meet it gently, not with frustration, but with gratitude. Say, thank you for protecting me, but I don't need you anymore. Because resistance isn't the enemy. Familiarity is, and every time you choose differently, even for one breath, you dissolve another thread tying you to the version of yourself that no longer fits. This is how timelines lock in. Not through grand gestures, but through consistent coherence. Through returning to the frequency again and again until the field no longer sees you as someone trying to become, but as someone who already is. And here is the quiet miracle that many people never realize. When your internal state becomes independent of your external circumstances, the external no longer has power over your destiny. You stop reacting to life. Life begins reacting to you. This is the moment where your presence changes. People look at you and sense something different, even if they can't name it. Your energy feels clearer. Your decisions feel bolder. Your timing becomes uncanny, because your frequency is no longer asking for proof. It is broadcasting certainty. You're not manifesting anymore. You're stabilizing a memory once so ancient, so encoded, so deeply yours that even your breath carries its blueprint. And now, as we close this chapter, I invite you to anchor what you've awakened, not as a wish, not as a hope, but as a declaration to yourself and to the field. Type these words as a signal. I remember the version of me who already lived this. Let this be your coherence. Let this be your alignment. Let this be the moment your future stops feeling distant and starts feeling inevitable. Because the truth is simple, and it has been waiting for you. You are never lost. You are only layered. And each time you choose remembrance over reaction, alignment over effort, presence over performance, you peel back the illusion and step into the version of yourself that has always existed, complete, whole, unshakable, and finally, home.